The 30th of November 1941. 5:12 hours. The western approaches to Moscow. The forest is silent, the kind of silence that presses against the ears. Frost coats the birch trunks like ash. A German Panzer III sits half-buried in white powder, its steel skin creaking as the cold tightens its grip. Somewhere inside the hull, a driver pumps the starter. Nothing. Again. The engine coughs, then dies. Breath fogs the air. Metal bites through gloves. A Feldwebel stamps his boots, counting seconds that feel like minutes, watching the horizon glow a dull, hostile gray. A wind cuts across the clearing. It carries the smell of fuel that won't ignite and oil thickened into paste. The men curse the cold in whispers, as if the forest itself is listening. To the south, artillery thuds, distant, heavy, Soviet. Each impact trembles through the frozen ground. Snow drifts from branches in soft avalanches. The men flinch anyway. Somewhere on a map table far behind the lines, Moscow is marked with a red circle. It has been circled for months. The order had been simple once. Advance fast. Break through. End the war in the east before winter. Weeks, they said. Now winter has arrived first. The soldiers of army groups sent to wear greatcoats stiff as boards. Ice rims their helmets. Rifles jam unless kept under arms for warmth. Machine gun barrels crack when fired too long. A messenger runs from vehicle to vehicle, his boots squealing on the frozen ground, shouting that fuel trucks are late again. Delayed. Lost. Broken down along roads that no longer exist, swallowed by snow and mud turned to iron. In the distance, beyond the tree line, the city waits. Moscow. Not the triumphant prize promised in the summer briefings, but a looming presence, dark and immovable. Church domes barely visible through low clouds. Factory chimneys coughing smoke into the sky. Somewhere beyond those streets, Soviet reserves are forming. Men pull from Siberia, wrapped in white camouflage, skis slung over shoulders, faces hardened by colder winters than this. The Germans don't see them yet. What they see are numbers that don't add up. Rations cut again. Horses collapsing in harness, their breath steaming, then stopping altogether. Trucks abandoned where they froze overnight, engines seized solid. Maps that show distances measured in kilometers, not in hours lost to cold starts and frozen fingers. A lieutenant kneels beside a radio operator, trying to coax life from the set. The batteries are dead. The wires snap like twigs when bent. Orders, when they arrive, come late and thin, stripped of confidence. Hold, one says. Push, another insists. The men look at the sky. Snow begins to fall again, slow and deliberate, as if the land itself is closing a door. Somewhere ahead, a Soviet flare rises, bathing the forest in harsh white light. Shadows leap across the snow. Rifles are raised. Hearts hammer. This was supposed to be the final march. Instead, the front is freezing in place. And as the light fades and the cold deepens, a terrible understanding begins to form, one that will change everything. The 1st of December 1941, 21:40 hours. Forward positions outside Klin. Night falls early now, smothering the land beneath a ceiling of cloud and snow. The temperature drops without mercy. -30, maybe more. No one bothers to calculate anymore. The cold is not a number. It is a presence. A German infantry platoon digs into the frozen earth with bayonets and bare hands. Shovels bounce uselessly off ground hardened like concrete. Fingertips split and bleed, the blood freezing black against pale skin. A soldier stuffs his hands under his armpits, then back to the ground, again and again, desperate to finish before darkness fully settles. The sound comes first, a low, sliding hiss. Then the shadows move. From the tree line, white shapes glide forward, barely visible against the snow. Soviet ski troops. Faces wrapped in cloth, rifles held low, smooth and patient. They do not shout. They do not rush. They close the distance like winter itself, silent and unstoppable. A German machine gun opens fire. The first burst is strong. The second stutters. By the third, the bolt locks solid, metal contracted by the cold. The gunner swears, slams a housing. Too late. Grenades arc through the dark, dull thuds punching into snowbanks and trenches. The fight is brief and brutal. When it ends, the forest is littered with dropped weapons and shallow craters steaming faintly in the cold. The Soviets melt back into the trees, leaving behind only bodies and a message that doesn't need translating. They are not retreating anymore. Along the entire front, reports begin to arrive. Counterattacks. Night raids. Units thought destroyed reappearing from nowhere. Siberian divisions. The rumor spreads. Fresh, trained, equipped for this climate. Men who learn to fight where breath freezes in midday. German officers gather around oil lamps inside commandeered peasant huts. Maps are spread across tables, corners curling from damp and cold. Red arrows point west now. Not advances. Withdrawals. Fuel is rationed to the liter. Artillery pieces are abandoned when horses collapse. Panzer crews sleep on their vehicles, burning anything they can find. Fence posts, furniture, books, just to keep engines warm enough to start again by morning. Sometimes it works. Often, it doesn't. Frostbite cases overwhelm aid stations. Toes turn white, then black. Fingers are lost. Men are sent back not because they are wounded by bullets, but because winter has claimed them piece by piece. Still, the orders from above refuse to change. Hold your ground. No retreat. Hitler's voice crackles over the radio, distant and absolute, insisting that willpower can overcome climate, that victory is still within reach. Field commanders exchange glances they do not dare put into words. They know what their men feel in their bones. The front line is no longer a line. It is a series of isolated pockets, clinging to villages that offer no shelter, roads that lead nowhere, promises that are frozen solid. And behind the Soviet lines, engines that were once silent begin to roar. Engines that start easily in this cold. Engines attached to tanks painted white, rolling west. Winter has not merely arrived. It has chosen a side. Type continue to generate the next section. The 5th of December 1941, 6:55 hours. The Moscow front. Dawn breaks without warmth. The sky glows pale blue, brittle and empty, as if the sun itself has retreated. German sentries stand rigid in snow-filled trenches, stamping their feet, blinking eyes from their eyelashes. The night has been restless. Too quiet. No artillery. No probing attacks. Then the horizon moves. At first it looks like drifting fog, low and wide. Then the sound arrives. Engines, many of them, steady and confident. Soviet artillery opens fire in waves, the ground erupting in geysers of snow and earth. Shockwaves slam into frozen bodies. Men dive for cover that barely exists. From the white haze emerge tanks. T-34s. Their hulls are angled, their tracks wide, gripping the frozen ground where German armor slips and stalls. Snow billows around them as they advance, guns flashing, silhouettes growing larger with every second. German anti-tank crews scramble to bring guns into position, hands numb, movement slow. A round strikes the front plate of AT-34 and ricochets harmlessly into the sky. The realization spreads faster than the cold. This is not a raid. This is not a local counterattack. This is an offensive. All along the line, Soviet forces surge forward. Infantry follows the tanks, moving with purpose, shouting commands that carry clearly through the frozen air. Red flares burst overhead, marking objectives already planned weeks in advance. The enemy has not merely survived the summer and autumn. They are prepared. German communications collapse under the strain. Radios fail. Lines snap. Messengers are lost in the snow. Orders arrive too late or not at all. Units fight on instinct, on habit, on fear. A battalion commander watches his left flank disappear behind a curtain of smoke and realizes no one is there anymore. The myth of inevitability shatters. This was the army that had crushed Poland in weeks, France in days. Now it is being pushed back from villages whose names barely appear on maps. Retreats begin without permission, then with it, then without any coordination at all. Vehicles are abandoned by the roadside, fuel tanks empty, crews already marching west on frozen feet. Above them, Luftwaffe aircraft struggle to take off from snow-choked airfields. Engines fail. Landing gear snaps. The sky, once a weapon, is now another enemy. In headquarters far to the rear, generals argue in heated whispers. Reports stack up, each worse than the last. Divisions at half strength. Supply routes cut. Morale collapsing. The word defensive appears where final push once stood. And in Berlin, the news arrives like a blow. Moscow has not fallen. The line is bending. And winter has months yet to go. For the first time since June, the question is no longer how fast victory will come. It is whether survival is possible at all. Type continue to generate the next section. The 18th of December 1941, 23:10 hours, a frozen road west of Moscow. Snow falls in thick, soundless sheets, swallowing the road as fast as boots can mark it. A column of German soldiers moves through the darkness, heads down, rifles slung, breath rasping in the cold. There is no formation anymore, just movement. Westward, a staff car sits abandoned at the roadside, its windshield shattered, papers scattered and half buried in snow. Orders stamped with official seals lie unread, their authority meaningless now. Nearby, a horse lies stiff in its traces, eyes glaze, thrust locked into its menere. The war machine that rolled east in June is coming apart piece by piece. Somewhere behind them, Soviet artillery continues its slow, relentless advance. Not frantic, not desperate, measured, confident. Each barrage pushes the Germans further back, village by village, mile by mile. Red Army troops press forward through conditions that should be killing them too, but they endure. They have trained for this, lived in this, waited for this moment. Inside a freezing command post, a German general listens as a radio operator reads out the latest directive from Berlin. No retreat without permission. Positions must be held at all costs. The general closes his eyes, not in defiance, but in exhaustion. He knows the truth that cannot be spoken aloud. There are no positions left to hold. Men fall asleep standing up and never wake. Others march until their feet bleed through frozen boots, then march again. Frostbite claims limbs silently. Entire units dissolve into groups of survivors clinging to each other for warmth and direction. Discipline survives only where leadership stays visible, and even then, barely. And yet, something more dangerous than cold or bullets settles over the retreat. Doubt. The belief that this war could be won quickly. The certainty that German arms were unstoppable. The promise that Russia would break before winter. All of it lies shattered on the snow-covered roads leading away from Moscow. When the Red Army finally halts its advance, it is not because the enemy has been destroyed, but because it has been pushed far enough to survive. The Germans dig in again, battered but alive, learning the hard lessons written in ice and blood. Operation Barbarossa does not end here, but its soul does. The war in the East has become something else now, a war of endurance, of annihilation, of time measured not in weeks, but in years. And from this winter onward, Germany will fight not for swift victory, but against the slow certainty of defeat. Winter has taken command, and it will never give it back. End.